I began shooting the ICON 3/8 Flex Head Comfort Grip Ratchet review about a week or two ago, and I had meant to post part 2, but then I started on the ICON toolbox and some other stuff, and I wanted to space my videos out some. But since then, there's been a recall on these ratchets. I'm gonna love you, babe. Cross my heart and hope to die. And I did a video on the recall, which I'm gonna put up top right now. And I'm also gonna put up top the first part of this video. If you're interested, go back and watch it. Now, I've already shot part 2 of this video. I've actually posted it already, and the guys on my Patreon page, they've been able to go look at it. But I've been kind of hesitant about publishing it because of the whole recall thing. Now, I did a poll on my community page. If you guys don't pay attention to the community page, man, try to pay attention to it, because I like to try to ask questions and give updates and let you guys know what's going on. So keep an eye out for that. If you really want to keep an eye out for everything, man, hit that bell at the bottom, because YouTube don't show you all the stuff that I do, all the stuff anybody does. So if you're interested, hit the bell, because I got a lot of other stuff coming up as well that I think you'll be really interested in. Now, with that being said, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna redo the part 2 of this. Now, I'm gonna show you the footage that I did from part 2 where I tested these ratchets. I took it out to my truck, I took my tire off, I put the tire back on, I loosened up a brake caliper, I did a few things with it, and then I also came in here on the vise and I torqued down a bolt down to 100 foot-pounds, 125 foot-pounds, 150 foot-pounds, and 175 foot-pounds. And we was testing the flex in the ratchet of the ICON, and I also tested the Matco, the Snap-on, etc. But I'm just gonna show you the ICON ratchet and let you see how it did, the flex in the handle. And as I said, I'm not testing this ratchet to failure, because this ratchet is not the type of ratchet that you really want to put a pipe on, any 3/8 ratchet. Now, with that being said, of course we put pipes on them. Of course we use them for more than their intended use. But as I said, I don't want to test these ratchets to failure. Now, if I had the 1/2 inch, 25 inch, 1/2 inch, 18 inch, and yeah, I'd like to see how much torque those can handle. I'd also like to see the pattern of brake on the drive, or see where it breaks out, if it slips at the gear, the pawl, the drive. I would hope it breaks at the drive. But this ratchet, I'm not interested to see that. Now, people's done it, so if you are interested to see it, you can catch it on their videos. But you can see, I mean, the ratchet held up good. The ratchet did what it was supposed to do. I didn't experience none of the problems that caused this ratchet to be recalled. So I couldn't figure out what the problem was. Well, I've been trying to recreate that problem, and I think I have recreated. So what we're going to do today is we're going to inspect this ratchet, and I'm going to tell you why I think this ratchet failed, and I'm also going to give some recommendations that I think can make this ratchet better for the next series they come out with, or whatever they do. And I think we'll get a better idea once we see over here, and I'll explain it a little more. But what I've done is I've took apart these ratchets as I promised in part 1 of the videos. We have these took apart. I've also took apart a Snap-on, a Matco ratchet, because I want to look at the differences. And I've also took apart a 3/8 fixed head ICON ratchet. So we're going to look at the difference in that as well, because there is a pretty big difference, as we'll see. So let's get over here. We'll take a look at these ratchets taken apart, and hopefully this is an isolated incident, and hopefully we don't have to deal with these problems more in the future. But let's get over here and look at it. The first thing I want to do is I want you to listen to the sound of this ICON fixed head 3/8 comfort grip ratchet. Now I want you to listen to the sound of the 3/8 flex head comfort grip ratchet. Now, I don't know how good that's coming through, but there's a big difference. The 3/8 flex head is a lot more gritty. It doesn't feel as good as these 3/8 fixed head ratchets. And we're gonna see when we take these apart what the difference is. So let me get these apart. Now, I actually went and bought this. This has the same deal. It's kind of gritty as well, but I bought this to be able to use as a driver for when I do this, and it's actually turned out to be a pretty good little ratchet. I've been using it for about a week now. So as I said in the first video, the first thing we notice is the difference in size of the heads compared to the 3/8 fixed head and the 3/8 flex head ICON ratchet. Now, I do like that the ICON flex head ratchet heads are smaller. I do want them smaller. And if we look at it compared to the Snap-on flex head, now this isn't an FL80 ratchet, but they're similar to this. We can see a pretty big difference in the head size. But when we look at the Matco locking flex head 88 tooth ratchet, we can see that the head on the Matco is small, just like the head on the ICON. The gears are roughly the same size. The pawl is a little bigger on the Matco, it appears, but they're roughly about the same size. Now, just like on the fixed head, it has the spacing washer, it has the front plate, and we can see the pawl, switch, and gear of this ratchet. Now, right next to it, this is an actual fixed head ICON ratchet taken apart, and we can see a pretty big difference. This looks pretty heavy duty. I've said that in my first video. I think this looks like a pretty heavy duty ratchet. The inside head is completely full. The parts are nice, big, and beefy. They look like they've been machined well. Looks like a nice ratchet. But when we look at the 3/8 flex head, as I said, we see a pretty big difference. And we pull this apart and we can see this gear. Now this gear is way smaller than this ICON fixed head gear. We can see a pretty big difference. Now another thing we can notice on this 3/8 fixed head is that it's packed with grease pretty good. I haven't added any grease to this. This is how it comes. Straight out of the package, packed with grease. The 3/8 flex head, 0 grease. Now I said before that I thought that maybe that was the problem, that they wasn't grease, but that's not the problem. I'm pretty much 100% sure that the grease is not the problem. But let's look at the difference in the pawls from the fixed head to the flex head. This is the flex head. This is the fixed head. Big difference. Real big difference. Now, I showed you before a 3/8 Tekton ratchet, and we compared that. This is a fixed head 3/8 Tekton ratchet. We compared that to the ICON fixed head ratchet, and I said I thought the ICON was probably better than the Tekton, judging off the insides of the ratchets. Now, we pulled this apart, and I said, well, this is like, it's completely different, because at one time, people said they thought that the ICONs were rebranded Tektons, etc., and I came to the conclusion, I said, no, I don't think that they are rebranded Tekton. But when we look at the way that this pawl from the Tekton compared to the pawl on the ICON, man, they're pretty similar. That may even be the same pawl, but there's actually some lettering on these pawls. And guess what? It's the same exact lettering. The same exact lettering. Now this side looks slightly different, but I'm gonna say, man, I think these are probably almost the same pawl. Now there is differences in the design. We can see the Tekton design has more of an oval shape, where the ICON design has 2 little points here, and then the insides where the switch engages. And as I said, the Tekton's more round, so they probably are different, but got the same lettering and everything. Now we look at the backside, look exactly the same. The Tekton is bigger than the ICON, quite a bit bigger than the ICON, but the Tekton is from a fixed head ratchet. As I said, they're normally going to be bigger, just like we see with the Matco. And now when it comes to the snap-on, it's a different story, but we see the similarities in these ratchets. Now when it comes to the switches, they are different switches in the Tekton. The Tekton is recessed in a little bit, whereas the ICON is not. It's pushed out. So they are completely different switches. Now the thing about the Tekton ratchet is that straight out of the package, it wasn't greased either. But we look at these springs, man. It's the same springs. Now, what does that mean? They may just order the parts from the same place or something. I don't know. But they are pretty similar, man. When we look at those pawls and those springs, besides the switch, it's looking a lot like a Tekton. So, and we look at the difference between the switches on the fixed head and the flex head, and we see a pretty big difference as well. We see that the fixed head that I praised about on the fixed head, they had the O-ring in there. There is no O-ring on this switch at all. So now that we've looked at the similarities and the big differences in these ratchets, let's take a look at another one. This is a flex head that I've still got put together, and this is the one I was able to recreate the problem on. And before we do, let's take a look at this Matco, and I want you to watch it as I turn it. Look at the pawl in particular. Then when I make the switch, we see how that works. Now, let's take a look at the ICON, and I want you to notice the movement from this spring to this pawl. So this has a lot of room inside, and there's a lot of movement from this spring to this pawl, and it's locked up. There, I just made it move finally. So what's happening, the reason it's getting locked up is because there's so much movement right here from left to right that basically the paw's moving the whole distance of the ratchet instead of this spring stopping it and providing some resistance, but not going all the way up and wedging inside and being caught on those teeth. So the problem with this ratchet, I believe, is in this spring and this pawl. So let's talk about what I think that they need to improve on the next one. First off, I think they need to beef up the internals a little bit. Now, I understand we want a slim head. We do want a slim head. But look at the difference in the cutout between the snap-on and this. It's a pretty big difference. They could come down a little more on this and open that up. Now, is that like a must-have? No, I mean, it could stay the same, but what they need to beef up, honestly, is they need to beef the spring, the switch, and the pawl up. But the problem is, I think, is this switch, as I said, there's too much room in here. There's too much play back and forth. And to be able to move this pawl the whole distance of the ratchet, right there, it's moving the whole distance. And when we look at the Mako, as I said, it moves barely. So I think that's their problem. I think they need to beef up the switch. They need to beef up all the internals on the inside. Another thing I think they need to beef up is these little tiny screws that they have holding this together. These are little tiny baby screws. They need to make those screws longer. In my opinion, man, I used this flex head ratchet and it worked good for me. I didn't have no problem with it. It worked well. It does work good, but we see there is a problem. There's a big problem, and it's caused a lot of people to not be able to use these ratchets. So that's where I think the problem is, and I'm sure they could fix it, and I'm sure they're going to address that or any other problems. I may be wrong. I'm just guessing. That's just way too much movement on the pawl, and it's basically going to the other side. So why is it locking up when it goes to the other side? Because that's the side there that won't let you go this way, right? So when I go over here, it shouldn't be able to go over there because now that it's all the way over there, it's engaged the other way. So I can't use it, if you understand what I'm saying. Hopefully they fix this. Hopefully it's not an issue anymore. Now, they are handling the situation well. I think they are doing a good job as far as giving you another ratchet, then going to give you the 3/8 ratchet when it comes back out, or give your money back and still give you the 3/8 ratchet when it comes back out. So you're basically getting a free ratchet or a 2-for-1. So if you want my opinion, man, if you own this ratchet, don't wait for it to fail. It's going to fail. If you got another 3/8 ratchet, take it in there and get your free ratchet. Go to 1/2 inch, go to 1/4 inch, whatever you got to do, then get your other 3/8 when it comes back out, because these ratchets are going to fail. I was able to recreate that because I did not have a single problem with this ratchet until I kept messing around with it and kept moving it around and trying to figure out the problem. And there's this switch also protrudes out quite a bit. And when we look at the snap-on, when we look at the Mako, the switches are flush on the inside. Now, there is a cutout in the faceplate for that switch to be able to set, but I think the whole design, I think the switch design, I don't know, man. Even the Tekton switch sets flush, so I think that they need to rethink those switches. I think they need to be a little bit beefier switch. I'm just giving some examples of things that I think that they need to do. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm right. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. Let me know what you think about the whole situation, man. And I'm going to go ahead and end this and get this video posted and put out, because I've been putting it off because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I got it done now. I appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, go down and subscribe below, because I got more videos coming like this, projects, tips, tool reviews, and more, including the ICON toolbox comparison to Snap-on and other toolboxes. I'm going to try to be doing a whole lot of stuff is going to be coming on, and I'm doing the best I can. But till next time, stay real.